Welcome back to Media Week. Well, for a check on the global media sector's performance on the market this week, we're joined by Chris Weston from IG. Chris, great to have your company on the show. Now, it's US corporate earnings season at the moment, and we've had some, well, news from Facebook, sort of mixed, but good news is that there's hot growth in mobile and video ads there.
Well, the mobile revenue was down 2% on the quarter, which is okay. I mean, that was probably just a little bit above expectations. But on a yearly basis, that was up 81%. So mobile revenue continues to work nicely, and as a percentage of those ad revenue numbers, it's 73%. If you put that into perspective, the last earnings quarter was at 69%. So clearly, yeah, we go back a couple of years ago, we were all talking about how Facebook wasn't going to be able to monetize the mobile space, and clearly that's not the case. They're doing exceptionally well in that side of things. Desktop revenue down a touch, down about 3%. But the stock has fallen down 2% in the post-market session. It reported just after the close. It's down 2% in the post-market session, and likely when we said open the cash market, it's going to be down. Why? Well, earnings per share was above expectations, about 2 cents over, but revenue was a touch shy. If you look at the group revenue, just a little bit under expectations, and the stock is fairly well priced, and I think that's probably likely why we've seen some disappointment there.
What about Apple? What are we watching for in that one?
Well, I'm expecting great numbers from Apple. I mean, they are going to be down from the previous quarter. That's not going to surprise anyone. Yeah, Christmas is always a time when Q1 is always a time when Apple deliver the goods there, and we are going to see a substantial slowdown in earnings per share on the quarter by about 30%. But let's put things in perspective. Apple have beaten earnings per shares for 8 quarters in a row. They've beaten sales by 7 quarters. So they have an absolute beautiful pedigree around earnings season. So I expect the $2.16, which the market's $2.14, which the market's looking for EPS to surprise on the upside. Revenue of $55.7 billion will probably surprise to the upside. But there's a lot more to it than that. You know, what's the expected contribution going forward from the watch? What's going to be the expected contribution from some of the other smaller players like Beats? And of course, what's going to be the buyback? There is going to be a stonking buyback from the company, something like $150 billion over the next few years, and that's really going to drive. So I expect the stock to do well.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for those insights.
Great stuff, thank you.
Chris Weston there from IG. Back to some local news, and Today FM is facing a suspension as a regulator considers taking it off the air as punishment for the royal prank call. The investigation has been ongoing over the past couple of years, but ACMA has finally published its findings, naming a few breaches by the radio network. Well, for more, back to our co-host, editor and publisher of Mediaweek, James Manning. James, so what have we heard from ACMA in terms of these breaches?
Not a lot yet about what they want to do with the penalty. There seems to be some suggestion they will suspend them for a few hours off air, which not sure when that'll happen, possibly during the daytime, but really not certain about the length of time they'll be off. Southern Cross Australia said, look, we could go back to court, so we'd think they don't really have the power to do that to us, so they don't think it should happen. I just think it's time to move on, though, maybe take the punishment and just
shut the door on that one.
There's going to be a whole lot of more. If they go back to court, it's going to be more stories about the prank call.
More negative publicity.
Absolutely, just drag it out longer. And if they end up losing, we'll still have to get a penalty. So it's a real roll of dice for them. I think they should just...
Let's just say they go off the air for, say, 2 hours, which I think is being thrown around, by speculators. What sort of impact does that have on Southern Cross Stereo? Does it have an impact?
Well, it is. I mean, all your listeners that you would have during that time go, oh, look, so they'll go elsewhere. And you've got to think, well, if they like what they go on, they won't come back.
Come back, yeah.
And there's also going to be some negative press that day. But once that's over, the media cycle is so quickly these days, people are going to forget about that, move on, then they can just start rebuilding their shows. That they've rebranded the network Hit Network, so just want to get on and just push that. And
do you think this will change the way radio approaches some of these sort of games?
Oh, look, it already has. Yeah, look, and it's, a lot of people in radio have said, look, it could have been us. A lot of people were doing these sort of prank calls, putting them to air. Largely hadn't been any problems until now, so... lots of people have said it could have been anybody, but you just don't hear much of this stuff on air at all now.
Yeah, OK. Well, let's talk about radio in a bit more detail because we've got the radio ratings out. So let's kick it off and take a look at Sydney first up in terms of ratings. Now, 2GB coming up on top, of course. Yeah, look, you look for trends always in these things. If there was a trend this time, it was that there wasn't big changes anywhere. Lots of the changes we'll see are all relatively smooth. Yeah. Same spots, really.
All the AM stations in Sydney went down. I think all the FMs were sort of level or went up. But yeah, no big changes there, and still no sort of growth at Today FM.
Yeah, Kiss FM still there growing, actually.
Doing very well.
All right, let's take a look at Melbourne now and see how Melbourne tracked. What do you make of the trends there?
Yeah, it was sort of opposite. Sydney AM was down. Melbourne AM was up, and FM, nobody went up. So it was a real reverse of what happened in Sydney. Look, KISS was probably the talking point maybe for Melbourne. Dropped out of that top 5, which ARN wouldn't be happy about. But look, it's still very early days in that rebrand, so I think they won't be too concerned.
They've got Sydney going well, so they'll take that.
They have, yeah.
OK, Brisbane as well. We've got Nova in the second spot in Brisbane.
Yeah, look, Nova had a really good survey. They're still trailing 97.3, but they go after different audiences. 97.3 is at the older end, if you like, maybe 40 plus. 25 plus. Nova's really king under 40. They did very well. Breakfast, Ash, Kip and Lutzi did very well there. And they celebrated their 10th birthday, Nova, in Brisbane this week.
And then in Adelaide, actually, Nova's doing well in second top spot as well. Yeah,
look, good survey for both Nova entertainment stations there. 5AA, the talk station, and Nova both went up 0.7%. Still not able to catch Mix. Southern Cross stations didn't have a great survey in Adelaide. Triple M was down. I think Hit was probably level, but they really would like to get into the top there. Cruise is only, not far behind Triple M, so Southern Cross could fall out of the top 4 there when there's only 6 players in the market.
Perth as well. We're seeing Mix in the top spot there as well. Yeah,
look, Mix still leading there. Down a little bit this survey, as was 96. Nova. Look, most of that top 5 actually, or the top 3 were down a little bit. Great survey for 6PR, their breakfast show. Stephen Baz jumped up really well. They're only our second in the market now, 6PR breakfast, so it's good. A bit of good news for the new Macquarie radio network after it merged with Fairfax Radio out of that Perth market.
Yeah, they jumped significantly. All right. Well, let's talk about some other news in the space as well, because we're looking at free-to-air TV, and there's been a lot of sort of examination into the free TV model this week. TV audience levels dropping to levels that people didn't expect.
Yeah, Danny Bass from Group M, who's been on the show and talked to us previously about TV and its important, the business model and all that. And he said, look, he's pointed to audience fragmentation, and he thinks the current model is virtually broken, or it will be in the next financial year. And he's also saying, people have been looking at the impact of SVOD and viewing on different devices. So something that's not going to go away for TV. And a report too this week about negative growth, well, not negative growth, but zero growth or very low growth in the sector. And the impact, I think people are probably overstating the impact SVOD is having or will have, but you've certainly got to keep a watch on it, I think.
Is that zero is the new black, that report?
Yeah. So
play on words there for how successful Netflix is going with its orange.
Yeah, well, exactly. They're impacting everywhere.
Yeah. Now, several news items also regarding public broadcasting funding this week. A poll finding people are willing to see ABC and SBS budget cuts to help balance that budget.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly the question was there in that poll, but people said, yeah, look, if it helps get the budget back under control, we would accept some sort of cutbacks to both SBS and the ABC.
And they won't be happy to hear that.
No, absolutely, especially when the SBS has already had a budget cut, if you like, significantly, and they're trying to get that extra advertising time moved out of some of their off-peak slots into peak time to help that shortfall.
Now, we know there's been a bit of controversy with some of these real estate media sort of news outlets. Domain's actually offered real estate agents equity now in its commercial property division. Yeah,
it's a model that's worked well for them before, and their chief executive, Anthony Catalano, they're really focused on building their commercial property division, and the way to really engage with the agents is to give them a stake in the business. So there's a real payback for them to make sure they advertise on the website, so they get a piece of the action.
And Property Observer's changed hands as well?
Yeah, Jonathan Chancellor co-launched that with Eric Beecher and Private Media a few years ago now. He was formerly a real estate editor for the Sydney Morning Herald. He left, started up this website. Now he's taking it back under his own steam. I think they're relocating head office back up to Sydney for that too.
All right. It's always a popular sector, that real estate news sector, especially at the moment with the housing market doing what it's doing. Let's talk APN Outdoor as well. It's released findings of a new study. #MyRealWorld. What's this all about?
Yeah, everybody's bringing in a hashtag now. But it's quite good because you can whack it on all your social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, they've tracked a lot of people's habits across the day, particularly 16 people they've tracked from, when they wake up, when they go to bed, and all the interactions these people have with outdoor media, and it's sort of staggering the number of times you're exposed to outdoor media. So this is their real selling point for outdoor. They don't have sort of audience figures for content like traditional or other media does. So they really need to track that audience across the day. So that's just part of this big overall report.
All right, always good to engage social media in that little #MyRealWorld you can see on the screen there. Let's talk about as well some changes, some executive moves in the media space this week. We've seen some changes at Sky Racing.
Yeah, look, John Tapp is going to step down from all his work at Sky Racing. I think he retired from calling thoroughbred races quite a while ago. But he's been doing the harness racing for Sky Racing, and he's going to finally give it away. He's going to stay as a trainer. He doesn't want to leave the industry completely.
And also Janine Faithful stepping down from Endemol.
Yeah, look, that's ahead of the merger with Shine. We saw a couple of weeks ago the Fantasy brothers leave Shine, or about to leave Shine as chief exec. So both companies will be without a leader. So I'm not sure that when they come together, there's an opening there for someone to take on the company here in Australia.
Door closes, another one opens. Let's look at the ratings now. Television ratings. Kicking it off with week 16 for free to air. No surprises there, James. My Kitchen Rules.
In sight, there's only a couple of weeks left in My Kitchen Rules, so we're getting really down to the pointy end. Yeah, four episodes in this week 16. All of them in the top 5, of course.
Well, let's switch the page there and take a look at the rest of the top 10 there. The Block making it in there.
Yeah, Block also nearly at an end. Ends next week, so we won't see that too many more times.
It's all 9 there, 60 minutes and 9 news.
One of the contestants walked out this week too on the show, Ingrid.
Do you think that will pull more ratings as well for the final?
Oh yeah, it did very well for them. I've got a feeling they might be back though before the auctions. I think they'll do it more.
Well, that'll bring ratings up too then, no doubt. OK, let's take a look now at subscription television. Sport, of course, top 5 sport. We've had to split it up because there's so much sport, of course, there at the moment with AFL.
Even representation of both codes there, NRL and AFL.
And then switching the page, the top 5 non-sport. Game of Thrones taking the top 2 spots.
Yeah, and they're there for the 2 screenings, of course. I think it's the 11 a.m. Eastern time slot, which is when it simulcasts with other countries around the world. Then it's the prime time repeat in the evening. And I think that was the last episode of Gogglebox too.
Oh, there you go.
Been doing very well.
Yeah, it has been doing well. Speaking of television and Foxtel, there's Game of Thrones. That gives you a bit of an idea, but it's also offering Orange is the New Black for binge viewing later this year. And I thought this was a Netflix production.
Well, it is in the US, but Foxtel has some rights out here, so they've kept them. They must have series rights or something. So Series 3, it's going to be on June 12. It's going to be shown ad break free. And so it just shows you the impact Netflix is having, I guess, that giving people the choice if all the episodes are available. And of course, they're not always available because sometimes still making the program when it starts. But if all the episodes are available, give the people the opportunity to watch it all in one go.
But is that a direct from the US sort of phase for Foxtel? I mean, is that coming direct from the US?
Yeah, it would be the same day
Yeah.
they go out in the States. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Also, TV Week Logie Awards, our Oscars here at home. That's next week.
Only a week away.
What have we got? What do we know about this coming up?
We've heard about the Hall of Fame, the Logie Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Home and Away is going to be inducted this year.
That was very much speculated, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
A lot of talk about that.
Yeah, there was. I think TV Tonight had a bit of a scoop on that quite a while ago. Look, it's won about 42 Logies home and away, so it's probably well overdue. But there's actually only 4 series have ever been inducted as a series into the Hall of Fame. The others were Neighbours, Play School and Four Corners. Oh. So this is the first, I think this is the first Channel 7 series, and 9 have never had a program in the Hall of Fame.
Right, but Neighbours, so just getting the other soapy in there as well.
Yes, absolutely, evens up the score.
All right, Yahoo 7 as well, releasing a report about companion TV viewing. What is that first up? And then tell us a bit about the 24% that are watching on other devices.
Yeah, well, it's just where else do you watch your TV?
Yep.
How else do you consume? We talked to Doug Pfeiffer from Oztam about that a couple of weeks ago. Their quarterly reports track that sort of stuff. This Yahoo 7 report had a new survey. 24% of people are watching on devices other than the traditional TV. Skews, of course, to younger viewers. I think it's nearly 50% of people under 35 or under 40 are watching on other devices, and that includes laptops, a traditional PC, or your mobile devices connected to the internet. And strangely, Yahoo 7 was the most popular of all those catch-up services, or we should say the most popular commercial of the catch-up services.
Well, no wonder they wanted to release that report.
I think the ABC's iView actually probably ranks as number 1.
Right, and that number will certainly just rise from here, right, James?
Oh, yeah, look, absolutely, 24%. But, you know, be interesting, we might try and talk to someone from Yahoo 7 in the next few weeks or months, I guess, about the trends here, because they still make it a little bit tricky for people. I still don't think they all let you stream to your big TV, because they still want to make you come and watch the live broadcast, if you like, but that's definitely going to disappear, and the options will open up for viewers. Yeah,
cross-promotion there. Well, James Manning, we will leave it there. Editor and publisher of Media Week there, our co-host. That does wrap up Media Week for today. From the team here, thanks for your company.